Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the main window. The ship was humanity's best warship, floating in space near Earth. Everything looked normal until the space around them started to twist and bend. Massive ships appeared out of nowhere. They were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. The alien vessels looked like metal mountains floating in the darkness. Their hulls were dark gray, with strange patterns that seemed to move in the light. "Sir, we're getting 37 contacts," said Lieutenant Park Min-soo from his station. His voice was steady, but Tae-ho could hear the fear underneath. They're enormous." Tae-ho nodded slowly. Earth had been preparing for this day for years, but seeing it happen was different. The alien ships formed a perfect circle around Earth's orbital space. They moved without making any sound, like deadly ghosts. "Open a channel to Earth Command," Tae-ho ordered. "Tell them the Valians are here." On Earth, the emergency signals started blaring in every government building. Ambassador Park Soo-jin was in her office when the call came. She had been Earth's top diplomat for 10 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. "Ambassador, you need to come to the council chamber right now," her assistant said, running into the room. "They're here. The aliens are here." Soo-jin grabbed her coat and ran through the halls of the Global Defense Building. Other people were running too, all heading to different emergency stations. The building felt like a kicked anthill, with everyone moving fast but trying not to panic. In the council chamber, Chairman Lee Dong-woo was already talking to military leaders on big screens. Lee was a calm man who never raised his voice, but today his face looked tense. "How many ships?" Lee asked Admiral Kim on the main screen. 37 capital ships, sir. Each one is at least 3 times bigger than our largest vessel. They're not attacking yet, but they're positioning themselves around the planet." Soo-jin took her seat at the council table. Around her, the other leaders of Earth's government were arriving. General Bae Kyung-min came in wearing his full military uniform. Dr. Choi Min-ah, the head of military strategy, sat down with a thick folder of papers. "They're sending us a message," reported the communications officer. "It's coming, through on all frequencies. Put it on the main screen," Lee said. The screen changed to show the inside of an alien ship. The creature that appeared was tall and thin, with gray skin and large black eyes. It wore what looked like a military uniform covered in strange symbols. "I'm Supreme Commander Kethvar of the Valian Empire," the alien said. Its voice was translated by the computer, but it sounded cold and empty. "Your species will now listen to our terms." The alien continued talking, and every word made the humans more angry. "The Valian Empire has conquered 437 worlds. Your planet will become the 438th. You have exactly 72 standard hours to surrender completely." "What does surrender mean?" Dr. Choi asked quietly. As if hearing her, the alien explained. "Surrender means your military forces will be destroyed. Your governments will be dissolved. Your people will work for the Empire. Those who resist will be eliminated. This is how it has always been done." The alien's image disappeared, leaving the humans staring at a blank screen. 72 hours, Lee said slowly. "They give us 3 days to give up everything." General Bae stood up. "Sir, our current fleet can't fight ships that size. If we try to fight them with what we have now, they'll destroy us in minutes." "What about the colonies?" asked Soo-jin. "Mars, Europa, the asteroid mining stations." "They have ships there too," reported Admiral Kim from space. "Every human settlement is surrounded. They planned this perfectly." Lee looked around the table, at the faces of Earth's leaders. These were smart people who had spent their lives solving problems, but this problem seemed impossible. "Options?" Lee asked. Dr. Choi opened her folder. "We surrender and hope they treat us well. We fight and probably die quickly. Or..." She paused and looked at Lee carefully. "Or what?" Lee asked. "Option 3, sir. The one we've been preparing." 4. Everyone in the room knew what she meant, but no one wanted to say it out loud. For 20 years, humanity had been working on secret projects. Projects that most people didn't know about. Projects that scared even the people who built them. "Are they ready?" Lee asked quietly. "The Black Armada has been ready for 5 years. Sir, all systems are operational. Admiral Oh Sung-ho is waiting for orders." Soo-jin looked confused. Black Armada. What's the Black Armada? Lee turned to her. Something we hoped we would never need to use, something that goes against everything we believe about how wars should be fought. Hours passed as the leaders talked and argued. Outside, news of the alien ultimatum spread across Earth. People gathered in the streets, looking up at the sky where they could see the alien ships as tiny dots of light. On the space station Luna 1, Captain Yoon Jae-sung watched the alien fleet through his telescope. His job was to run a small research station, but today he had different orders. Hidden transmitters around his station were sending coded signals to locations throughout the solar system. Signal confirmed, he reported to his hidden contact. All Black Fleet units are responding. They're waiting for the final order. Back on Earth, the 72 hours were almost up. Lee had made his decision, but first he wanted to try one more thing. Open a channel to the Valian fleet, he ordered. Supreme Commander Kethvar appeared on the screen again. Have you decided to surrender? We want to negotiate, Lee said. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. There is nothing to negotiate. Surrender or be destroyed. These are your only choices. What if we offered to share our technology? What if we could give you something valuable? Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are weak. Your ships are slow. You have nothing we want except your obedience. Lee nodded slowly. I see. Then, you leave us no choice. You choose to fight, your ships against ours, this will be over quickly. Not our ships, Lee said. We choose option 3. The alien looked confused. There is no option 3. Lee stood up and looked directly at the camera. Supreme Commander, your empire has conquered many worlds. But you've never fought humans before. We don't surrender, and we don't give up. When someone threatens our freedom, we have a special response. Your threats are meaningless, Kethvar said. These aren't threats, Lee replied. This is a promise. You wanted to meet humanity at our worst. Congratulations. You're about to get exactly what you asked for. Lee turned to Dr. Choi. Send the activation codes. Yes, sir. Sending Black Fleet activation codes now. Throughout the solar system, hidden, bases started coming online. Massive structures that had been sleeping in the darkness began to wake up. The largest military project in human history was about to reveal itself. On the screen, Kethvar was still talking. Whatever you think you can do, it will not matter. We have... Lee cut the transmission. He turned to address his council in the world. People of Earth, he said as cameras broadcast his words everywhere. We have been given a choice between slavery and death, but humans always find a third option. Today, we show the galaxy that some species are too dangerous to conquer. Shupper. Countdown began. In less than 1 hour, the alien ultimatum would expire, and in less than 1 hour, the galaxy would learn why humans had earned their reputation as the most unpredictable species in known space. The die was cast. The message was sent. Now Earth would see if 20 years of preparation had been enough. Deep in the cold darkness beyond Pluto, something was happening. Captain Yoon Jae-sung floated in his small stealth ship, the Shadow Walker, watching his instruments carefully. For 5 years, he had been the guardian of humanity's greatest secret. Activation. Codes confirmed, he said into his radio. All systems are green, beginning wake-up sequence. Around him, space began to change. What looked like empty darkness started to shimmer and twist. Huge shapes appeared, becoming solid as their hiding systems turned off. Ship after ship materialized, each one black as the space around them. These were not normal human ships. They were longer, meaner, and covered with weapons that most people had never seen before. The Black Armada was finally showing itself. Yoon switched his radio to the fleet command frequency. Shadow Walker to Event Horizon. All stealth fields are down. The fleet is visible and ready. Roger, Shadow Walker. This is Admiral Oh Sung-ho. Beginning final preparations now. The Event Horizon was the flagship of the Black Armada. It was 3 kilometers long and packed with technology that pushed the limits of what humans could build. Admiral Oh stood on its bridge, watching hundreds of other ships take their positions. Oh was a thin man with gray hair and cold eyes. He had spent 15 years planning for this day. While other admirals learned how to explore space and make peace, O had learned how to win wars that couldn't be won fairly. "Status report," O ordered. "All ships report ready, sir," said his second-in-command, Captain Han So-young. "Quantum drives are charged, weapon systems are online, AI networks are synchronized." Han was the best engineer in the human Space Force. She had designed many of the Black Fleet's most dangerous weapons. Today, she would see if her creations could save humanity. "What about the special units?" O asked. "The Nightmare Squadron is ready for first strike. Captain Quan Yu-jin reports all stealth fighters are equipped and standing by." O nodded. The Nightmare Squadron was his secret weapon. 12 small ships that could appear and disappear like ghosts. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a normal spaceship, and they could work together like a pack of wolves. Across the solar system, other hidden bases were waking up too. On the dark side of Mercury, massive railguns rose from underground bunkers. Near Jupiter, weapon platforms disguised as mining stations began charging their power systems. On Mars, General Bae Kyung-min stood in an underground command center that officially didn't exist. Around him, screens showed the positions of every human and alien ship in the solar system. "Sir, we're getting reports from all Black Fleet units," said Major Lim Hai-wan. "They're all responding to the activation codes." Bae had been planning for this war since the first alien signals were detected 20 years ago. He knew that humans couldn't win a fair fight against an empire that had conquered hundreds of worlds, so he had made sure this wouldn't be a fair fight. "What's the status on Project Nightfall?" he asked. "All strike teams are in position, sir. They're ready to hit Valian bases on 12 different worlds simultaneously." Bae smiled grimly. While the aliens were focused on Earth, human special forces were already behind enemy lines across their empire. When the fighting started, the Valians would discover that humans had been planning for war in ways they couldn't imagine. Back near Earth, Supreme Commander Keth Var stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was looking at reports from his sensor operators, and he didn't like what he was seeing. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures," reported his tactical officer. "There are objects in the outer system that weren't there before." "What kind of objects?" Keth Var asked. "Unknown, sir. They appeared suddenly about an hour ago. Our sensors are having difficulty getting clear readings." Keth Var was annoyed, but not worried. In 437 previous conquests, the Empire had never encountered anything they couldn't handle. Primitive species sometimes had hidden weapons or secret bases, but it never mattered in the end. "Continue monitoring," he ordered. "Prepare to destroy anything that moves toward us." He didn't know that human ships were already moving toward him. The Black Fleet was using quantum drives that bent space around them, making them almost impossible to detect until they were very close. Admiral O studied the tactical display on his bridge. The Valian ships were arranged in a standard conquest formation around Earth. It was a pattern the Empire had used successfully for centuries, but it had weaknesses that O intended to exploit. "Analysis, Captain Han?" he asked. Han pointed to her computer screen. "Their formation is designed to prevent escape and crush resistance quickly, but they're not expecting an attack from multiple directions at once. If we hit them from above, below, and the sides simultaneously, their formation becomes a trap for them instead of us." "And our special weapons?" "The nanomachine swarms are ready for deployment. The quantum torpedoes are armed. The AI viruses are prepared for upload into their computer systems." O had spent years developing weapons that other species would consider dishonorable or too dangerous to use. Nanomachines that could eat through enemy hulls. Computer viruses that could turn enemy ships against each other. Quantum weapons that could make an enemy ship explode from the inside. The Valian Empire fought with honor and followed ancient rules of war. They believed in fair fights and clean victories. O believed in winning, no matter what it took. "Signal from Earth Command," reported the communications officer. "Chairman Lee is about to make his final response to the ultimatum." O activated his personal communicator. All across the Black Fleet, ship captains and crew members stopped what they were doing to listen. Lee's voice came through clearly. "People of Earth and people of the galaxy who might be listening, today we face an enemy that demands our surrender or promises our destruction. But humans have always chosen a third path. We choose to fight for our freedom, no matter the cost." O felt his heart beat faster. After 20 years of preparation, the moment had finally arrived. Lee continued. To the Valian Empire, we send this message. You came here expecting to find another species that would kneel before your power. Instead, you have found humans. We don't kneel. We don't surrender. And we don't fight fair. O raised his hand, and across the Black Fleet, weapon systems came online. By attacking Earth, you have made the greatest mistake in your empire's history, Lee said. You have awakened something that should have been left sleeping. Admiral O, you have permission to show them what humans do to bullies. O lowered his hand. All ships, this is Admiral O. Execute Operation Black Dawn. Let's teach these aliens why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Across the solar system, the Black Fleet began to move. Ships that had been hiding in the darkness for years suddenly appeared around the Valian forces. They came from every direction at once, moving faster than the aliens thought possible. Captain Quan Yu Jin led the Nightmare Squadron in the first attack. Her 12 stealth fighters appeared right in the middle of the Valian formation, firing quantum torpedoes before the aliens could react. Nightmare leader to all units, she said over the radio. Welcome to Earth, you alien bastards. Time to learn why you should have stayed home. The war for humanity's freedom had begun, and the Valians were about to discover that humans had spent 20 years learning how to fight dirty against impossible odds. On his flagship, Kethvar watched in shock as his perfect formation was torn apart by attacks coming from everywhere, at once. What is happening? He demanded. Sir, we're under attack by unknown vessels. They're using weapons and tactics we've never seen before. How many ships? We're not sure, sir. They keep appearing and disappearing. Our sensors can't track them properly. For the first time in his long military career, Kethvar felt something he had never experienced before: fear. These humans were not fighting like any species the Empire had conquered. They were fighting like demons. The Valian deadline had expired exactly 1 minute ago. Supreme Commander Kethvar stood on his bridge, expecting to receive humanity's surrender message. Instead, his sensor officer was screaming warnings. Sir, massive gravitational disturbances. Detected. Ships are appearing all around us. The space around the Valian fleet suddenly filled with dark shapes. The Black Armada had dropped out of quantum space in perfect formation, surrounding the alien ships like a closing fist. Kethvar stared in shock. Where moments before there had been empty space, now hundreds of human warships floated in the darkness. They were black as space itself, covered with weapons he didn't recognize. Impossible, he whispered. Our sensors showed nothing. The largest human ship, the Event Horizon, moved closer to his flagship. It was smaller than Valian capital ships, but something about it made Kethvar feel afraid. It looked predatory, like a shark circling its prey. A transmission came through on all frequencies. Captain Oh Sung-ho's face appeared on every screen in the Valian fleet. His voice was calm and cold. Supreme Commander Kethvar, this is Admiral O of the Black Armada. You said you wanted to meet humanity. Congratulations. You just did. What is the meaning of this? Kethvar demanded. Your species doesn't have ships like these. Our intelligence reports... Your intelligence reports are 20 years out of date, O interrupted. We've been busy. On the human ships, crews were moving to battle stations. Captain Quan Yu Jin sat in the cockpit of her stealth fighter, the Nightmare. Around her, 11 other pilots waited for the order to attack. All Nightmare units, this is Control, came Admiral O's voice. Begin harassment protocol. Show them what human pilots can do. Yu Jin smiled. She had been training for this moment her entire life. Nightmare Squadron, follow my lead. Let's dance. The 12 stealth fighters vanished from sensors and reappeared. Around a Valian cruiser. They fired quantum torpedoes from 6 different directions at once, then disappeared again before the aliens could return fire. The Valian ship's shields flared and failed. Explosions ripped through its hull as the human weapons tore it apart from the inside. What kind of weapons are those? Kethvar's tactical officer asked in panic. Unknown, sir. They seem to phase through our shields. Yu Jin's fighters appeared again, this time around a different ship. They struck like lightning and vanished like ghosts, leaving another Valian vessel burning in space. All ships, open fire. Kethvar ordered. "Destroy these humans!" The Valian fleet fired their massive energy cannons, but the human ships were no longer where they had been. The Black Armada was using hit-and-run tactics, appearing just long enough to fire, then disappearing into quantum space. Captain Han So-young watched from the Event Horizon's engineering section as her creations performed exactly as designed. "Nanomachine deployment successful," she reported. "The swarms are eating through their hull armor." The nanomachines were microscopic robots that could reproduce themselves using enemy ship materials. Once they attached to a Valian vessel, they would spread like a virus, weakening the hull until it collapsed. "Computer virus upload complete," reported another technician. "We're taking control of their secondary systems." On 3 Valian ships, the lights began flickering as human AI programs invaded their computers. Weapon systems turned against their own vessels. Life support systems started failing. Admiral O watched the battle with satisfaction. This was exactly what he had planned. The Valians were used to fighting honorable enemies who followed the rules of war. Humans had thrown out the rule book entirely. "Signal from the Eternal Dominion," his communications officer reported. "The Supreme Commander wants to talk." "Put him through." Kethvar's face appeared on the main screen. He looked angry and confused. "What kind of warfare is this? You fight without honor. You use weapons that should be banned." "Banned by who?" O asked. "We never signed your treaties. We never agreed to your rules. When you threatened to destroy our entire species, you made this a fight for survival. And humans will do anything to survive. This is not how civilized species conduct war." O laughed. "Civilized? You came here to enslave my entire species. You threatened to kill billions of innocent people, and you call us uncivilized?" Around Earth, the battle was spreading. Human ships appeared and disappeared like deadly spirits. Every time the Valians tried to form a defensive line, the humans would attack from an unexpected direction. Commander Park Jin-woo led a squadron of human destroyers in a coordinated strike against a Valian battleship. Instead of facing it head-on, his ships attacked from above and below simultaneously. "Fire the quantum mines," he ordered. The mines were invisible until they exploded, appearing right inside the enemy ship's hull. The Valian battleship broke apart as internal explosions tore it to pieces. On Mars, General Bay was coordinating attacks across the galaxy. "Strike Team Alpha, report status." "We've successfully destroyed the Valian supply base on Kepler 442b, came the reply. "Moving to secondary target." "Strike Team Beta?" "Valian communication array on Wolf 359 is down. They can't call for reinforcements from this sector." Bay smiled. While the aliens were focused on Earth, human special forces were crippling their infrastructure across 12 star systems. The Valians would soon discover that this war wasn't just happening in one place. Back in the main battle, Kethvar was becoming desperate. His fleet was being torn apart by an enemy that refused to fight fair. His ships were bigger and more powerful, but the humans wouldn't stand still long enough for him to use that advantage. "Sir, we've lost 8 ships," his tactical officer reported. "The humans have lost none, sir." "None? How is that possible?" "They retreat before we can target them effectively, and their weapons seem designed specifically to defeat our defenses." Kethvar realized with growing horror that this wasn't a spontaneous resistance. The humans had been planning this for years. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategy was designed to counter Valian strengths. "Send a message to the High Command," he ordered. "Tell them we need immediate reinforcements." "Sir, our long-range communications are being jammed. We can't reach the High Command." Of course they were being jammed. The humans had thought of everything. Captain Yu Jin led another attack run, this time targeting the Valian flagship itself. Her fighters appeared around the Eternal Dominion like deadly butterflies, firing weapons that seemed to bend reality itself. "This is for every species you've enslaved," she said as her torpedoes struck home. The flagship's shields failed, and nanomachines began eating through its armor. Emergency alarms blared throughout the ship as human viruses infected its computer systems. Kethvar felt his ship shaking around him. For the first time in his career, he was losing a battle. Worse, he was losing to a species that the Empire had dismissed as primitive. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human admiral," his communications officer reported. O's face appeared on the screen again. Supreme Commander, you have a choice. Withdraw from Earth immediately, or we'll destroy your entire fleet. You cannot defeat the Valian Empire, Kethvar said, but his voice lacked conviction. We have thousands of ships across the galaxy. Had, O corrected. Check your long-range sensors. Your bases on 12 worlds are currently under attack. Your supply lines are being cut. Your communication networks are down. We told you that you were about to meet humanity at our worst. This is what we do to bullies. Kethvar looked at his tactical display. Red warning lights were appearing across the galaxy as human strike teams hit Valian installations simultaneously. This wasn't just a battle for Earth. It was a coordinated assault on the entire local Valian presence. How long have you been planning this? He asked. 20 years, O replied. Ever since we detected your first scout ships, we knew you were coming and we prepared. Did you really think a species that survived ice ages, world wars, and asteroid impacts would just roll over and surrender? More Valian ships were exploding around them. The human attacks were becoming more frequent and more devastating. Kethvar realized that his perfect conquest fleet was turning into a death trap. Sir, recommend immediate retreat, his tactical officer said quietly. We cannot win this engagement. Kethvar had never retreated from anything in his life, but he had never faced an enemy like this before. The humans didn't just want to win the battle, they wanted to send a message to the entire galaxy. All ships, withdraw to the edge of the system, he ordered. We will regroup and call for reinforcements. As the surviving Valian ships began to retreat, Admiral O smiled. The first phase of humanity's plan was complete. The galaxy's most powerful empire had just suffered its first major defeat in centuries, and this was only the beginning. 3 weeks had passed since the first battle at Earth. Across the Valian Empire, emergency meetings were being held in every sector. Supreme Commander Kethvar had been stripped of his rank and executed for his failure. The Empire could not allow news of their defeat to spread. War Master Velthar stood in the Great Council chamber on the Valian homeworld. He was larger than most of his species, with scars covering his gray skin from 100 battles. Unlike Kethvar, Velthar had no interest in honorable warfare. He believed in victory at any cost. The humans have made a mistake, he told the High Council. They think their small victory proves they can challenge us. We will show them the true power of the Empire. The council leader, an ancient Valian with pure white skin, leaned forward. What do you propose, War Master? Total mobilization. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier in the Empire will be focused on destroying this human infestation. We will use weapons that have been banned for centuries. We will make an example that will terrify any other species thinking of rebellion. On Earth, Chairman Lee sat in the Emergency Council chamber, reading reports from across human space. The news was both good and bad. Good because humanity's surprise attacks had been incredibly successful. Bad because they had definitely gotten the Empire's attention. How many ships are they bringing? He asked General Bay. Our intelligence estimates between 800 and 1,000 capital ships, Bay replied. Plus support vessels, it could be over 1,500 ships total. Dr. Choi Minna looked up from her computer. Sir, that's nearly the entire Valian military. They're not just trying to conquer us anymore. They want to exterminate us. Lee nodded grimly. He had expected this. When you punch a bully in the nose, they either back down or come back with everything they have. The Valians had chosen option 2. Status of the Black Fleet? He asked. All ships operational, reported Admiral O through the communications system. But sir, even with our advantages, those numbers are challenging. Lee stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see people going about their daily lives. Children playing in parks, families having picnics. Normal life continuing while humanity prepared for the fight of its existence. Gentlemen, ladies, he said, turning back to the council. The Valians have just made the same mistake that bullies always make. They think overwhelming force is the answer to everything. It's time to show them why that doesn't work against humans. He pressed a button on his desk. Dr. Shin, please come to the council chamber. Dr. Shin Woo-jin entered the room carrying a black briefcase. He was a small, quiet man who looked like he should be teaching physics at a university. Instead, he was the architect of humanity's most terrible weapons. Dr. Shin, Lee said, please tell the council about Protocol Omega. Shin opened his briefcase and pulled out a small device that looked like a simple computer tablet. Protocol Omega is our final response option. When activated, it deploys weapons that we hoped we would never need to use. What kind of weapons? Asked Ambassador Sujin. Quantum cascade bombs that can destroy entire fleets, nanomachine plagues that spread from ship to ship, AI viruses that can take control of an enemy's entire computer network. And he paused. The reality bombs. Everyone in the room felt cold. They had heard rumors about the reality bombs, but no one knew the details. The reality bombs can destabilize the fabric of space-time itself, Shin continued. They create areas where the laws of physics stop working normally. Ships caught in the effect simply cease to exist. How many do we have? Lee asked. 12, sir. Each one can affect an area roughly the size of Earth's moon. General Bay whistled softly. That's enough to destroy most of their fleet. Yes, Shin said, but using them has consequences. The space around Earth would be unstable for decades. We might make our own solar system uninhabitable. Lee looked around the table. That's the choice we face. Use these weapons and risk destroying our own home, or let the Empire exterminate humanity. There's another option, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Captain Lim Haiwan entering the room. She was dirty and tired, having just returned from a mission behind enemy lines. What option? Lee asked. We don't just defend Earth, sir. We take the war to them, make them fight on so many fronts that they can't concentrate their forces anywhere. Lim activated a holographic display showing the galaxy. Red dots marked Valian worlds, while blue dots showed human strike teams. We have special forces teams positioned throughout their territory, she continued. If we coordinate attacks on their industrial worlds, their supply bases, their communication hubs, we can force them to spread their fleet thin. Dr. Choi studied the display. It's a massive risk. We'd be committing everything to simultaneous attacks across hundreds of light years. Ma'am, with respect, they've already committed everything to destroying us, Lim replied. The difference is, they expect us to sit here and wait for them to arrive. They're not expecting us to attack their home territory. Admiral O's voice came through the communicator. I support Captain Lim's plan. The Black Fleet was designed for deep strike missions. We can hit targets they think are safe. Lee made his decision. Very well. We implement both strategies. Dr. Shin, prepare the Protocol Omega weapons for deployment if needed. Captain Lim, coordinate with Admiral O to plan simultaneous strikes across Valian space. General Bay, prepare our defenses for the worst-case scenario. Across the galaxy, War Master Velthar was preparing his own surprise. On a secret world at the edge of Valian space, massive ships were being loaded with weapons that had been outlawed by Galactic Treaty for good reason. The Planet Killer. Devices are ready, War Master, reported his chief scientist. Each one can sterilize an entire world. Excellent, Velthar said. When we reach Earth, we will not just defeat the humans. We will destroy their planet so completely that nothing will ever live there again. Let the galaxy see what happens to species that defy us. But Velthar didn't know that human spy satellites had been watching his secret world for months. Captain Yoon Jae-sung, still operating his stealth ship in the outer solar system, had been tracking every Valian movement. Shadow Walker to Earth Command, he transmitted. Confirmed sighting of planet killer weapons. The Valians are planning to destroy Earth completely. Lee received the message in his office. He closed his eyes and made the hardest decision of his life. General Bay, activate Protocol Omega. All weapons are authorized for use. Sir, are you sure? They want to play with planet killers? Then we'll show them what happens when you threaten human civilians. Across human space, the most dangerous weapons ever created began powering up. Dr. Shin's reality bombs started their activation sequences. Nanomachine factories went into overdrive production. AI viruses began copying themselves into every human computer system, ready to spread into enemy networks. Captain Kim Hae-jin led a stealth mission to the Valian homeworld itself. Her team's job was to plant quantum cascade devices in the Empire's main military complex. Remember, she told her team as they prepared to land, we're not trying to destroy their civilization. We're showing them that we can reach anywhere, anytime. Sometimes the threat of destruction is more powerful than destruction itself. The war was escalating beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Both sides were preparing weapons that could reshape entire star systems. The question was no longer who would win, but whether anyone would survive to celebrate victory. On Earth, children still played in the parks, but now their parents watched the sky with worried eyes. Everyone knew that the next few weeks would determine whether humanity had a future or would become just another extinct species in the Valian Empire's long history of conquest. Admiral O stood on the bridge of the event horizon, looking at the tactical display. Hundreds of human ships were moving into position across the galaxy. In 48 hours, they would launch the largest coordinated attack in human history. "Captain Han," he said to his chief engineer, "status of the new weapons?" "All systems ready, sir. The quantum disruptors are charged. The reality warping devices are online. The AI infiltration programs are prepared for upload." O nodded. The adult humans were about to teach the galaxy a lesson that no one would ever forget. When you threaten to exterminate an entire species, that species might just decide to take you down with them. The final battle was approaching, and neither side was planning to hold anything back. The Valian war fleet arrived at Earth like a metal storm. Over 1,000 ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, blocking out the stars with their massive hulls. At the center of the fleet floated the World Ender, a ship so large it could be seen from Earth's surface with the naked eye. War Master Velthar stood on the bridge of the World Ender, looking down at the small blue planet that had caused his empire so much trouble. The ship's main weapon was charging, building enough power to crack a world in half. "Begin the broadcast," he ordered. "Let every species in the galaxy watch what happens to those who defy us." Across the galaxy, alien civilizations received the transmission. They saw the massive Valian fleet surrounding Earth, preparing to execute an entire species. Many of them remembered their own conquests, when they had been forced to kneel before Valian power. On Earth, Chairman Lee stood in the underground command center, watching the alien fleet on his screens. The center was buried 3 kilometers beneath the surface, designed to survive even a direct nuclear strike. Today, it might face something much worse. "Sir, they're charging a planet-killer weapon," reported General Bay. "Estimated time to firing, 12 minutes. Lee activated the global communication system. His voice reached every human settlement in the solar system. "People of Earth, Mars, Europa, and all our colonies, this is our darkest hour. The enemy plans to destroy our world completely, but we are not helpless. Today, we show the galaxy what humans do when someone threatens our children. In the depths of Earth's oceans, something ancient was stirring. The Leviathan Project had been humanity's deepest secret, hidden beneath 5 kilometers of water in the deepest ocean trench. Now, massive doors were opening on the sea floor. Captain Jung Yu-na sat in the control chair of the Prometheus Unbound, a ship that existed partially outside normal space and time. Around her, the crew worked frantically to complete the final. "Preparations. Quantum phase drive is ready," reported her navigator. "We can phase through their shields and appear inside their flagship. Temporal displacement field is charged," added the weapons officer. "We can slow down time around their main weapon." The Prometheus Unbound was more than a ship. It was humanity's attempt to break the laws of physics themselves. If it worked, they could strike the enemy where they thought they were safe. If it failed, the ship and everyone on board would be scattered across multiple dimensions. Admiral O watched from the event horizon as the final pieces of humanity's plan fell into place. Around Earth, the Black Fleet had taken defensive positions. But this time, they weren't planning to run and hide. "All ships, this is Admiral O," he broadcast to the fleet. "Today we make our stand, not just for Earth, but for every species that dreams of freedom. Show them that some fights are worth dying for." War Master Velthar smiled as his weapon continued charging. "Humans," he said to his bridge crew, "such a violent, unpredictable species. The galaxy will be safer without them." His smile disappeared when his sensors detected something impossible. Ships were appearing around his fleet, but not from hyperspace. They were materializing directly from quantum foam, phasing into reality like ghosts, becoming solid. "What is this?" he demanded. "Unknown technology, sir," his science officer replied in panic. "They're using some kind of dimensional shift to bypass our sensors." The Black Fleet had revealed its final secret. Instead of hiding in normal space, They had been waiting in quantum dimensions that the Valians didn't even know existed. Now they appeared everywhere at once, already inside the enemy formation. Captain Quan Yu-jin led the Nightmare Squadron in the opening attack. But this time, they weren't just harassing the enemy, they were carrying humanity's most destructive weapons. All Nightmare units, deploy the reality bombs, she ordered. 12 small devices detached from the human fighters and drifted toward different sections of the Valian fleet. When they detonated, space itself began to break down. Ships caught, in the effect, simply stopped existing, erased from reality as the laws of physics collapsed around them. "Sir, we've lost 60 ships," Velthar's tactical officer screamed. "The humans are using weapons that unmake matter itself." Velthar stared, in horror, as entire sections of his fleet vanished into nothingness. "Fire the planet killer! Destroy their world now!" But as the World Ender's main weapon reached full charge, the Prometheus Unbound phased through its shields and appeared inside the ship's core. Captain Young activated the temporal displacement field, and time around the weapon began moving in. Slow motion. "This is Captain Young to all human forces," she broadcast. "The planet killer is neutralized. Execute Operation Prometheus." Across the battlefield, human ships began implementing tactics that seemed impossible. They used quantum entanglement to coordinate attacks faster than light. They deployed nanomachine swarms that could reproduce using enemy ship materials. They released AI viruses that turned Valian ships against each other. But the most devastating attack came from Dr. Shin's quantum cascade bombs. When they detonated, they created chain reactions that spread from ship to ship, turning the Valians' own energy weapons against them. "Sir, recommend immediate retreat," Velthar's second-in-command said. "We cannot fight weapons that break the laws of reality." "No!" Velthar roared. "Deploy the viral bombs! If we cannot conquer them, we will make their planet uninhabitable." Dozens of Valian ships launched biological weapons toward Earth. The viruses they carried could kill every living thing on the planet within days. It was the Empire's final act of spite, but the human ships were ready. Captain Park Jin-woo led a squadron of interceptors equipped with Dr. Shin's latest creation, matter converters that could transform the viral bombs into harmless energy. "This is for every world you've poisoned," he said, as his ships destroyed the biological weapons one by one. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, human strike teams were completing their missions. Captain Lim Hee-wan's forces had destroyed the main Valian shipyards. Other teams had captured key communication hubs and supply bases. The Empire's ability to wage war was crumbling. On the Valian homeworld, Kim Hae-jin's Special Forces team had infiltrated the planetary defense grid. With a few keystrokes, they took control of the Empire's most powerful orbital weapons. "This is Strike Team Alpha to Earth Command," she reported. "We have control of the Valian home defense system, awaiting orders." Back at Earth, the battle was reaching its climax. The World Ender was breaking apart as the Prometheus Unbound's reality-warping weapons tore it from the inside. Velthar's mighty fleet was being destroyed by an enemy that refused to fight by any rules. Admiral O opened a communication channel to the surviving Valian ships. "Warmaster Velthar, your fleet is defeated. Your home world is under our control. Your empire is finished. Surrender now, and we will allow your surviving ships to retreat." Velthar's image appeared on the screen. His face was bleeding, and his ship was falling apart around him. "You cannot defeat us! The Empire has ruled for thousands of years!" "Your empire ruled because you only fought species that followed your rules," O replied. "You never fought humans before. We don't follow anyone's rules but our own." Supreme Admiral Cho Min-seok, humanity's highest military leader, took control of the communication. "Warmaster, I'm going to make you an offer. One chance to save what's left of your people." "What offer?" Velthar asked. "Complete withdrawal from human space, independence for every species your empire has enslaved, and a non-aggression treaty that lasts forever. In exchange, we let your surviving ships go home." "And if we refuse?" Cho's expression became cold as space itself. "Then we activate the reality bombs positioned around your home world. We release the nanomachine plague throughout your territory. We upload our AI viruses into every computer system in your empire. We turn your own technology against you until nothing is left but empty space where your civilization used to be. For the first time in his life, Velthar truly understood fear. The humans weren't just offering him defeat. They were offering him extinction. "You would destroy yourselves too," he said weakly. "These weapons would make the galaxy uninhabitable." "Maybe," Cho replied. "But that's the difference between humans and the Valian Empire. You fight to conquer. We fight to remain free, and we would rather die free than live as slaves." Velthar looked around his broken bridge. His officers were staring at him, waiting for his decision. The choice was simple: accept defeat or watch his entire species die. "The Valian Empire accepts your terms," he said quietly. Across the galaxy, the news spread instantly. The Valian Empire, conqueror of hundreds of worlds, had surrendered to a single species that had been in space for less than 400 years. On countless enslaved worlds, alien populations began celebrating their freedom. The galaxy would never be the same again. Chairman Lee addressed humanity and the galaxy. "Today we proved that no empire is too powerful to challenge. No species is too weak to fight for their freedom. The age of the Valian Empire is over. The age of galactic democracy begins now." As the surviving Valian ships limped away from Earth, Admiral O stood on his bridge, watching the stars. Humanity had won the greatest victory in galactic history, but the price had been enormous. They had been forced to become something terrifying to save themselves.